Hey, welcome to Inside Voices, Career Paths at Spiffy. My name is Karl Murphy. I'm the president and co-founder of Spiffy. And today we're going to talk to Tanner Govin. Tanner is the site services manager for one of our locations in Portland, Oregon. Tanner, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Hey, so I like to start with, tell the audience where'd you grow up, what were you doing, where's home for you, and then sort of riff that into how did you find your way to Spiffy?
All right. I'm still living in my hometown. I moved back here not too long ago, actually. Um, it's kind of one of the best areas. I've traveled all around the United States. When I first got out of high school, I had a job where I was traveling all over the East Coast, working at paper mills and stuff. And I got lucky and was able to explore all over the United States and decided that being back at home in this area in the Pacific Northwest is kind of like the place I need to be. And that turned into me working for a mobile fleet company because I already had this heavy industrial mechanical knowledge, just not automotive. And I got this job at a different mobile fleet repair company. I met two amazing people, one named Nathan, one named Andrew. Sure, you know those two guys.
I do.
And eventually I got a phone call from Nathan, and I took the opportunity, and I've been here for coming up on 22 months now, actually. So
Yeah,
it's been a good run.
yeah, outstanding. Yeah, and so you live in Oregon, right?
I'm actually in Washington. So
Oh,
I was born in Vancouver, Washington, and
oh, okay,
I live a little north from there, but not too far.
right. And so Vancouver, Washington, is basically a suburb of Portland, though. For
Basically, it is a hop, skip, and a jump. It's one bridge away. It's
right.
couldn't be any
Not
closer.
Not Vancouver, Canada, which I was
Nope.
when we first hired you, I was like, "That's a long commute for the dude, is it? What's he gonna take a
Yeah.
boat up there?"
Yeah, about 4 hours. No big deal.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so tell me about the paper mill job. I didn't know this about you.
Oh, so yeah, I just got super lucky and got an apprenticeship, and basically it's really hard to explain. So civil survey work, right? The guys who
Mhm.
look through the scopes.
Yeah.
So there's multiple avenues of survey work, and what I ended up doing was mechanical survey work. So we would go into paper mills, we'd measure all their equipment, and ensure that when they were, let's say they're doing like a reinstall of something, we would ensure that during the reinstall it was put back exactly where it was because paper is, has to be perfect.
Right.
We measured all the equipment and ensured that it was installed correctly. And then I also did a new construction out in North Carolina, in Shelby, North Carolina. For
Uh-huh.
about 4 months, I lived out there.
Nice, and
And
you basically built a paper mill or you installed the machines and stuff?
yeah, so when I started, it was just this giant concrete slab in the sky, and we did all the layout from start to finish. So when we started, it was nothing. We did all the layout, told the guys where to install everything, and as it's installed, ensured it was installed properly from start to finish. And it was quite a project.
Ah, super interesting, super interesting. And so, yeah, did not know that. Um, so you end up at Spiffy. Um, Tell me about what is unique about Spiffy. So you worked for this paper mill sort of survey company, and then you work for another mobile maintenance company, which is interesting. What's in your mind, what like separates Spiffy? What's unique about our business and how we run the place?
Um, I think I got really lucky specifically in my position. I was given kind of like it almost felt like I was given the keys to the doors. You guys said, let it run, go for it.
Yep.
And that opportunity, I don't think obviously, I've never had anywhere else. And I don't know if I would ever have it anywhere else again unless I started my own company. And you guys have done nothing but support me and help me and taught me so much. And I'm also really blessed to have a good team. Like the guys that I have that work for me, we're really close. We're like family. So I'm pretty lucky to have them. And that's
Yeah,
what's special.
yeah, nice, nice. Um, yeah, that's true. I mean, I spent a little bit of time with you guys up there. We'll have to get to the me teaching you how to wash cars story. That's one of my more favorite stories. Um, Interesting. And so why don't you for the people listening who don't know, you're the site services manager in Portland, Oregon for a fleet customer. You serve all of our fleets, but it's like third shift. Why don't you tell people what you do and then what your folks do? Like, you're the manager. Talk about your job first, and then talk about the team of people that you have working for you and what they're doing.
All right, absolutely. Yeah. So My job is basically creating the connection with the customers, ensuring the customers have a face to talk to. They have someone reliable that can call at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. or 1 in the morning. I want them to be able to access me 24/7. I don't care if it's a Sunday, if I'm, at church or something. Anyways, I want them to be able to call me constantly. So that's kind of my role, is to make sure they're happy. Um, I will go out with my guys pretty frequently as well. And I think my role is a little different from some of the other site service managers because of I have that heavy automotive background knowledge, right? So I've taught all my guys, every single one of them is just a little mini me. I have given them every ounce of knowledge that I have, and they've absorbed it better than anyone else I can imagine. So I think that's a kind of a different aspect that I have that some managers might not have.
Right. So you're building their schedule. So you're doing this account management for the customer. You're, your team's doing inspections, right, on vehicles to make
Mhm.
sure that they're roadworthy. We're also handling, recurring maintenance like oil changes, and maybe their tires are getting to the point where they need to be replaced. And then there's this, like, the engine's got a problem, maybe there's a check engine light. Well, I don't know what's wrong with it. And then there's this sort of account management where you have to talk to the customer. Hey, I can do this for $200. I can do this for $500. I can do this for 1,000. Here's the plus and minus of it. What do you want to do?
Yep.
And try to keep those cars on the road. So talk about the scope of work that your team is doing on a daily basis. When do they come to work? What's their job sites look like? And that sort of thing.
So we start our shift at 7 o'clock. I have my guys show up at the shop about 7 o'clock, and we spend about
PM,
the first
PM,
7 p.m. Yes, correct.
7
Sorry,
PM.
thank you. 7 p.m. And we start about the first hour of the shift and going over all the jobs we have for tonight, because we'll have a list compiled that me and the service advisors will basically create throughout the day. We'll go through that list and we'll figure out, okay, do we need parts for this? What are we going to do for this vehicle? And we'll ensure that for that first hour, all of our tools, equipment, everything is loaded, ready to go. Um, so we work all across the Portland and Tualatin area. So we're doing a lot of driving in the night. So, um, sorry, I just got a blank. Anyways, our locations sometimes are really nice. We have some nice locations, but we're also in the Pacific Northwest. So there's been a lot of times where I'm out in the mud, laying on the ground, working on a vehicle, or my guys are as well. And it's is what it is.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah,
they're prepared for it.
some of our customers have nice facilities. You're working inside, there's lights. And then the opposite is like, it's a field and there's no, we brought the lights.
Yeah.
And then of
Correct.
course, rain, snow,
Anything you
or
can think of.
homeless people bugging you, right? There's a little bit of, like, the vagrants show up at night, like, anything that operates in the evening shows up, raccoons, homeless people,
Yep.
the odd
And
the odd bear.
we try to make friends with the ones we can. And it helps a lot to, you
Yeah,
know, because instead of trying to make enemies out there,
right.
it's not worth it. It's not
Yeah,
worth it.
I'm just trying to do my job, dude, leave me alone, right,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Interesting. Uh, so tell me about, like, what's the hardest part for your team? So how big is your team? You have 5?
We just went from 4 to 3.
Okay.
So we're at three
So
technicians.
yeah, so it's sort of gone up and down a little bit, but, how many, um what's the hardest part of their job? Tell me about what's hard for them. Like, if I'm I have a basic mechanic skill set, right? Well, what's hard for me working for you?
Honestly, when it comes to actual mechanical work, I don't think that is that difficult for the guys. Um, I think the hardest thing is fighting that schedule and getting done, at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and really pushing through that. Because working nights, it doesn't just affect your work life; it affects your daily life. Your social life. So I think
Right.
that actually might be the hardest. The mechanical wise, if you want to know like the most difficult thing, I leave that to the discretion of the technicians. Right? If you're not comfortable doing something, just tell me and don't do it. I'd
Right.
rather that our customer vehicles are safe and that you're safe doing work than us risking it, for a couple of dollars.
Right. Yeah, well, and the nice thing is, for the most part, your customer base has, like, 4 different types of vehicles. It's not like it's every vehicle on the highway. It's like,
Correct.
it's a Transit 250, it's a ProMaster, right? I'm like, You know, the
Yeah. So
tires, the brakes, the engine. I mean, it's pretty predictable.
exactly. And that's like I said, once they learn that and they get that basic skill set, all
Mhm.
of it just comes naturally at that point.
Right,
There is some like electrical stuff, heavy electrical diagnostic work that I end up usually doing because
right,
I'm more experienced with that stuff. But there is times that can get
right.
pretty difficult for them.
And so you basically come to work in the afternoon, right? And then you work sort of into the night, or what's your schedule look like?
I have that written down. So every day is different for me. Out here in Portland, with me being as so hands on as I am, there's some days that I'll get a call at 7 a.m. and I get up right away, put my pants on, and I'm getting in my van and I'm going to work and I'll go help
Right,
customers out. So I can be out from 7 till 3. But there's
right.
also days where I will, I'm get blessed and I can show up at the shop, talk with the guys, they'll help them for a little bit, and I can go back home and finish all my stuff on my computer at the house.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
it varies. But your guys, so your schedule's pretty dynamic.
mhm.
Uh, your your employees will basically they work from 7 to 4, 7 to 3, something like that.
If they get done early, they get done early, they can go home or they can go clean up the shop and make sure their stuff's organized.
Yep, yeah, interesting. Um, so when you see employees fail when they leave the company, um, what what are the reasons for that? Why do you think guys come on board or gals come on board and then they're like, not for me? What are the things that you would tell a new employee like, look, here's what it's like here, and if you're good, then you can have a great, it's a great place to work. If you're not good, like you should go find someplace else.
So our dynamic out here in the fleet that we work with, I think, and this might apply to all heavy fleet work, it is so dependent on teamwork that if you cannot work with the team,
Mm,
then you're never going to work. And the hard part is most mechanics in the automotive industry are trained. It's all you, you're by yourself. You don't have anybody else. So the few people that I've had come and go, they have that mindset. They have it's all about me. I'm the only one who can do this. And they just can't work with the group. And it ends up with them pushing themselves out because they don't want to get along with everybody and they don't want to help.
yeah. So explain to the audience, what do you mean by teamwork between two mechanics? How, like, just give an example of two folks working on a project and what one's doing and sort of the give and take and that sort of explain that to folks.
Yes. So we can start with basic, like, let's see someone who's familiar with the typical lube tech world. You're always going to have a dry tech and wet tech. So one guy who's getting his hands dirty, the other is going to make sure that the vehicle is finished on the inside, the work's done. That's one way to do it. We also require we're shuttling all of our vehicles. So you can't really get there by yourself. You're going to have your partner drop you off. You're going to get your van. You're going to get going. And typically, let's say you're doing brakes or something, right? We're doing 30 to 40 services a night. In order to get those done and get to the next vehicle, you're gonna have one guy on each side of the brakes. And you guys are gonna help each other make sure it's finished and then button it up. And that's the only way to get it done in a timely manner.
Yeah, so there's this combination of I have to move the vehicle. I've got a lot of services. The most efficient way to do that is to split the work on the vehicle, like a brake job, or in some
Mhm.
cases, there's the stuff's just big and you need help with it, whether it's I'm fixing a sliding door or it's a
Exactly.
bumper, right? Or maybe it's even a diag, like, hey, this car has a check engine light. I'm a C tech, like I'm great at changing oil and doing brakes, but I can't really read the computer.
Exactly.
What's this code mean? Is it a big deal? Can I reset it or is it gonna flash tomorrow and make the customer unhappy?
Yeah, and see, I've seen it where some guys think they know what they're doing and they will want to go and try to tackle that by themselves. And then it leads into further issues, especially with that diagnostic stuff. So
Right.
my guys know to call me every single time. So
Yeah.
that's why even if I start my day at 9 a.m., I'm still awake till my guys are finished every day.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yeah. Interesting.
it's,
Interesting. Cool. And then you guys do wash detail, right? So tell the story about me coming up there on the wash stuff. I'm gonna see your side of it. I have my own side of this story. I'd love to hear your side of this.
so I
It's
had never met you before.
That's right.
And
Yep.
I told you this, and I'm gonna tell you what I told you that night
Yeah.
because I didn't know what you looked like. Didn't see any pictures of you. I just heard
'Cause
word of mouth.
you were like a month or 2 in, right? Like you're
Maybe, right?
yeah.
And I had this mental image because Nathan kept saying, he gets his hands dirty, he works on the ground, he'll throw his coveralls on. I was like, okay, okay. For some reason, I just pictured you as like a pretty big dude. I thought you're gonna have like a big cigar in your mouth or something. You're gonna come and be like, all right, we're gonna get this shit done. Let's get going. Which he did have that attitude, I will say.
But I showed up in a blazer.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
dude, if the guy's got a
Exactly.
blazer on, he's going to a wedding.
Yeah. And and you're watching us work and I'm like not working, get prepared for the night. And I was kind of like a little nervous, obviously. I mean, it's hard not to be. But
Yeah.
once we went out there,
I pace around like a hungry tiger is sort of what other people drive. Like,
I do too. I do
what's
too.
going
It's
on?
okay. Yep. But when we went out and did the work, Spiffy has all these tools for detailing and cleaning that I don't have any experience with. Um,
It's
and
a shelf full of them. There's like literally a shelf. Like it's like 6 feet of,
here in Portland, try three because of
yeah,
what the original operation. Yeah, like
right,
so much stuff.
right.
Anyways, we went out. You helped me get everything loaded up. You told me what chemicals we needed, which there's also an insane amount of chemicals we have to work with.
Yeah.
And we went out and we busted out a bunch of vans, and I learned a lot. And ever since then, I have never had issues when it comes to cleaning our vans.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So it's interesting. So the backstory is we were growing very fast at that time. We had opened
Hmm.
up like 5 new markets and we have a training team and each person on the training team has a specific, like they're experts at one thing and then they can do other stuff, right? So maybe you're an expert at car wash detail, but you can you can change oil. Or maybe you're an expert at diesel, you know, advanced, either diesel engines and sort of heavy repairs, but you know how to wash, you can do wash cars, that sort of thing. And so we're in and we have a growth call every week. And the growth call is like, what's opening next week? Who's in line for it? Do we have everything we need? Equipment, tools, chemicals, people, trainers. Do the guys on the ground know what they're doing? Do they need training, et cetera, et cetera? And so like the week before, they're like, well, we have to do, we got a new customer and they want us to wash their vehicles. And I said, well, how many? It's like 30 a night. I'm like, Jesus, 30 a night. Okay. Because at the time you had a small team, right? There's 2 guys, right?
I had
It
two
was
technicians
you and two.
plus me. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, who are you sending for training? Well, we don't have anybody. It's just wash detail. It'll be okay. And I'm like, look, that is not a way to run like an elite organization. And I said, well, who do we have? And they're like, well, we're out of trainers. I said, okay, well, who are the managers up there? Well, you were the only manager at the time, right? In that city. We had another small book of business, but they didn't really know how to do what you're doing, right? So they
No.
they were they were unhelpful. And then I'm like, well, what about the guy in Seattle? Like, well, he's launching another thing on the day before. I'm like, okay, he can't go. I said, what about the vice president? Well, he's in San Diego this week because we're launching something there. And I'm like, I look down on my desk. I'm like, is it like literally last man standing? Like I'm next man up is me? And there's like this silence, like, oh, he can do it. Do we really want him in the market? Because it was again, one of the managers described me as like I cut a heavy weight through places sometimes. And and so I said, fine, I'll go. And so then I called you. I'm like, hey, look, make sure we have this equipment, these chemicals, that sort of thing. And I tell you, there is this, you know, you can wash a car fast and professionally, or you can wash a car painfully slow and unprofessionally. And a lot of it's just the right tools, the right chemicals, the right process, right? And and so we got so the pre-shift, right? We're getting the trucks together, and then we drive. I mean, it was probably what half an hour away. We had to get. It was not a short ride in our world to get to those vehicles, and then we had to porter them. Right, we're porter them to another location to wash, where that was sort of kosher to do. And then I showed you guys how to wash the car, and then I stopped. And then there's this young kid. There's two, right? John, right? And then there's another
Yeah,
guy.
Miguel, he was short lived, but he did good that night, I think.
He did, but he's like looking at me. I'm like, dude, did you see what I did? He's like, yeah. I said, well, it's your turn. He looks at me. I'm like, I said, you know, do you understand me? He's like, yes. I said, it's your turn. Pick up the bleeping hose and start cleaning the vehicle. Do exactly what I did. He's like, exactly. I said, if you want to be fast, you can do it my way. If you want to do it slow, you can do it your way. I said, we're not leaving until these vehicles are done, right? There's like a line of 20 of them. And so they go through that, right? And there's this like training component of explanation, demonstration, practical exercise going on, at 10 o'clock at night. And then we'd watched a couple cars, and you're like, hey, so Carl, when are you going home? And I'm like, we're going home when we're freaking done, dude. And you're like, well, that's gonna be like 3 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. Like, let's keep walking. Like, let's stop talking about the cleaning of these vehicles. I want to get these damn things done and go to bed. And so and then the guys are like, "Hey, is he leaving?" I'm like, "No, he's not." And I think you're like, No, he's not leaving until we're done. Like, keep washing. Like, just keep
Let's
going, keep
get
going."
going. Let's get going. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, we got 3 trucks and 3 hoses. Like, move out. Like, let's go. And so he came back the next day, and John's still around, right? I mean, John, is it John?
John's the best of the best.
Yeah, yeah, John's great. Young, again, young kid, young guy, mechanically oriented, and John's like, he is, you know, like the prototypical really good spiffy employee. Has a little bit of an attitude, like in a positive way. He's like very a little confident. He's like, "Carl, I know what I'm doing." Like,
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
away, right? And I came up to him on a break job, like, "You know what you're doing?" "I know what I'm doing. Do you?" He's like, I'm like, "Okay." I said, I'll take the chatter as long as you got it right." And so in any case, it was a funny story. But
Yeah.
it's funny for me because, like, I had to keep telling you guys, I'm like, "Dude, we're like, I'm not leaving until this thing is done. Like, let's get after this. I want to go to bed. Like, don't you want to go to bed?" And
Oh
so,
man. Those were the starting days. We still were in our groove. We were
yeah,
still getting our groove.
yeah. Well, it's you guys have done a really good job up there. So so if I'm a manager coming to Spiffy, one of the things that I think is unique about our business is the amount of customer interaction and account management you have. Talk about that a little bit, and like, how do you work through that? How do you deal with challenges and problems? Um, you're really good at it. And I think it's something you can educate people coming in on the management side.
It, it's honestly something that I have learned by trial by fire, right? I have I didn't have any experience when it came to management before this. I treat every one of my customers like I would a good friend, right? Um, I talk to them like I would a friend. Obviously, I keep it professional and everything, but I treat everybody like they're one of my good friends. And some of them, I do go out with some of my customers on the weekends or something just to maintain that relationship and we have a good time. Um, and when they present me with issues, all I'm doing is trying to find the best solution for them. It might not be the most beneficial for Spiffy sometimes, but that's what keeps that relationship. I'm being honest and I'm going to go, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how we're going to do it.
Yep.
And it's constantly searching for that solution. I try to never say no, which has gotten me in some weird situations. Um, I'm sure you're familiar with that too. But yeah, exactly. So I try not to say no. I'm a yes man, and I think everyone really appreciates that because I'm always
Yeah.
searching for the solution for their issues.
Yeah. Yeah. The balance on the yes side is you got to be able to deliver it. And I know sometimes you've yesed your way into like a little bit of extra work. It's probably it's an understatement from a standpoint of like,
Yeah,
and like, hey, you can say no every now and then, or no, not today. Can you get it done next week? But again, I
exactly.
think that's those are lessons that young leaders learn. Like, you have to be out there in the arena dealing with customers every day. And at some level, you don't know what you're capable of and how hard things are and how much time they take, or how easy they are and how little time they take, right? And so you have to sort of figure that out on the fly sometimes with customers. And so um and I think you're a really good example of the culture at Spiffy, which is like customer first, right? Like, we say yes, we solve problems, we get paid for it fairly, we don't overcharge people, we get paid a fair rate for it. And then, and again, sometimes, you say yes to a little extra work, and then, you got a team of 4 or 5, and 2 of them get COVID, and it snows, which makes everybody slower because it's cold. And next thing you know is like, I thought I was going to do X, and you end up doing a half X because all these other things sort of, I mean, yeah, I know you're nodding your head. I'm painfully aware of some of the challenges you've had. Just, it happens, right? Like, it's, you know,
I'll like sell some work and be like, my guys can handle that. And then like you said, something like that will happen where it's like snowing out and something. And next thing you know, I'm out there in my overalls and I'm in the snow getting
right.
just dumped on and I'm doing the work myself. And I think that's a big deal because you know the difference between a boss and a leader?
Go ahead. Give me your
Yeah.
description of it.
A boss will tell you what to do and a leader's going to be right there with you doing it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and again, I think my coaching to you would be, um, a little more management, a little less activity.
Yeah.
You, I love your, and this is not going to turn into a counseling session for you, but I love say yes to the customer, extreme ownership of your job. I do. And it
Mhm.
makes you very successful, you know, but you need to get 8 hours of sleep a night. And you need to have, basically 8 hours off a day and 8 hours of work and, 5 days a week. And how do you, again, the job, I think for a manager, it's a 50 to 60 hour a week job, but some guys make it more than that. And you're one of them. Again, I just think from a longevity standpoint, um, you don't wanna make that the average week, you wanna make that the exception, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, every month or 2, I have a killer week for whatever reason, the customer's busy, a lot of their stuff's broke, and I gotta, like, lean into it. But for the most part, how do I get it done? So, look, you're very successful at it, and again, you're young. Again, if you're gonna be doing this at 45 or 55, you gotta get smarter and work smarter,
Yeah.
just because the years add up, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
then you had a dependent and a couple of kids and a spouse, and they're like, they want your time also, and so you got to be be supportive of that, or at least sensitive to it.
Yeah, I've been really good at, pulling back a lot more in the last, like, 3 months, I'd say, 3 or 4
Yeah,
months because I I was getting burnt out. I was burning the candle at both ends, so
right.
I've been pulling
Well,
back a lot more.
and your performance hasn't suffered. Like your business performance has not suffered. I'd argue it's probably gotten better, right?
It's yeah, we're you're familiar with all the issues that we had faced, company-wide
Yeah.
and stuff, so we're still working through that bumpy road, but we're doing fine now. We're
Yeah,
doing
but you
good.
think yeah, like we had some sort of vendor issue, which is give us a hard time. It's unrelated to your job, but
Mhm.
your management of your team and your customers, I would argue, has gotten a lot better as you worked a little bit less.
Yes.
Look, I'm gonna go to bed. Whenever I go to bed, I'm gonna get my 8 hours of sleep. I'm gonna wake up and have my personal life during the day, and then you know get started. Most site services managers who are managing third shift are they're coming to work between 12 and 3 and then working, 8 or 9 hours into the evening to get the guys going. And then, um, their teams, your team's small. Some guys have 6, 8, 10 guys doing this. And so they'll have a lead. They'll have
Mhm.
a deputy who's there all night to deal with stuff. So you can, go to
I
bed.
s I still do, and that is John. John is our
Yeah.
deputy,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
given.
John. Yeah. I mean, I could have guessed that. I mean, John can, he can answer most of those site questions. What do we do with this? Do we push it away? What
Mhm.
stuff, do we get done? What decisions do we have to make? What do we have to communicate to the customer? All those sorts of things. Um, so, okay, so let's transition. I wanted to talk to you about Spiffy culture. We, as a company, talk a lot about our culture and how it differentiates us. I think in some cases the culture is very attractive to new hires, new members of our team, and in some cases it's very repulsive, and they figure that out pretty early, and then they move on. So, what does Spiffy culture mean to you, and give me some examples of how that rolls out to your team?
Well, the first thing that already is coming to my mind with Spiffy culture, I don't know many other jobs where you'll know someone like John on a first name basis and also enough to know his personality and his attitude. Right? That's not really something that is commonplace. Um, and I also, in myself too, you coming out there and washing cars with me and going out there because not many people are going to do that. When you looked at the chain of everyone that could do it, and you're like, well, I guess I got to do it. And you went and did it. Right. And that really shows the Spiffy culture because I think all of the upper management all have that kind of mindset, or you guys all have that kind of
Mhm.
mindset. And it's extremely beneficial and really important thing. Um, and then when it comes to me and my local guys, we're a family, dude. We are absolutely a family. And I think it's a really big deal because when you come here and you work for me, you're now a part of my family, and I take care of my guys, and my guys take care of each other. They make sure everyone's okay. It's we talk about it all the time actually, and it's a
Yeah. John, again, those guys have been here a long time. I think it's so I'm like not the only guy. Everybody else on, as you said, everybody on the team from the lowest manager to me goes to the field when they have to. Sometimes, again, it's if I was in the field training every day, every week, there's probably something wrong with the company. Um, and just like if you're changing oil every day, there's probably something wrong
yes,
on your team, right?
yeah,
But hey, it's got to be done, and it brings this level of empathy for the employee, uh, that I think, translates into keeping folks around. Hey, look, it's a hard job, and I think we pay pretty well, and I think we have decent benefits and all sorts of things. And it's because they're not, the employees aren't necessarily, they're not wrenches and screwdrivers. They're like, John and Jane and Joe and Betty. And so, uh, I'm glad that comes through to your team. I mean, I'm based in North Carolina, so you're sort of at the edge of the empire in Greater Portland, and so that's good. Um, yeah, and the family first thing again, we talk about that a lot. It's it's a challenging cultural value to live up to every day, because look, you guys, um, truth be told, working third shift is hard, right? Like most people are sleeping third shift, right? They're not working third shift. So you have to attract the right person who wants to show up. Maybe their life situation is that is that's what's best for them and their family. Or they don't like to get up in the morning. It's interesting, my son, he's like a night owl. We're talking about where he wants to work. And he's like, I just don't want to have to be at work at like 7 a.m., which is fine. And so he likes sort of you know, he doesn't work for us, but he just, you got to find folks that are into that third shift sort of thing. Um, and the other thing is, it's, working at night, right? So it's pitch black, working in places like Portland where the weather's sort of, I would say, challenging to work outside. I mean, a lot of our team works inside, but a lot of it works outside. I mean, it's probably like a third inside, two-thirds outside, um, across the company. Your team is largely outside, but there's some inside work, in other locations. Uh, having to balance that, I talk about like in manager training, we work Christmas Eve, we work Christmas Day, right? We do a lot of work for logistics companies and rental car companies, and people are renting cars and delivering packages on Christmas and New Year's. And Christmas is an important holiday for people with deeply held religious beliefs, and they want off, and they want Christmas Eve off, and they want to celebrate. And we try to support that. And we got to find people who are willing to work on Christmas Eve and New Year, Christmas Day, and Easter, and Hanukkah, and again, there's this whole range of holidays that have varying degrees of importance to different people, and so we have to balance that. But at the end of the day, it's like how do you take care of somebody's family and give them the time off to go, enjoy vacation or deal with, sick family members or whatever it might be. Um, I think we do a decent job of that relative to other places. It's this never ending discussion. Just recently, I mean, you were on the call. I was talking this week about, planning vacation as a leadership function, right? Like, look, guys get vacation here. And so, you know, they should plan it, and you gotta get people scheduled, and they gotta have budget to go on vacation, and you gotta have somebody doing the job for them when they're not there. Who's gonna do that, right? Like, you took some vacation, and we had to drive somebody in to backfill you, right? Because you're so busy, and and the last thing you want on vacation is like the phone to be ringing like, "Hey, you know, where's the doohickey to fix the wing nut?"
Yeah, I'm not even joking when I say this. I was on the top of Mount St. Helens. I hiked it for 6 hours, and my phone goes off, and it's one of my guys calling me. I was, dude, I'm on vacation. I'm on top of a mountain. I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Again,
it
not ideal from my
not
perspective,
it's
but
no, not ideal, but it is what it is, right?
like, why didn't, the other guy, I didn't wanna call the other guy. I'm like, "Dude, okay."
Yeah, exactly. You've definitely been there. I know you have.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so what do you think if you were to tell someone what are the best things about the job, what would you tell a new hire or a recruit? These are the 3 best things about working at Spiffy.
Um, on my local level, I think that here's the three best things for me down here for my guys. First one is you're gonna come here, you're gonna have a good team. People are gonna take care of you. As long as you perform right. I'm not gonna bark orders at you, and I don't think anyone here at Spiffy is gonna come here and bark orders at you and let you fail. Um, Another thing is, I'm gonna bring that family aspect back into it. That these guys are tight and close. You're gonna come work with these guys. You might feel like an outsider at first, but you'll get brought in, and everyone's gonna make sure everything's taken care of. Um, let's see. I'm thinking, I think I already said this, but like the freedom part really is a big deal to me and my team out here, right? I trust them and you trust all of us, but I trust them heavily to go out there and get it done right. Um, and I'm not always going to be out there or I'm not out there every night. And when they call me, they're going to tell me, hey, this is what's wrong with it. I have to say, okay. And I believe them and I trust them fully. Um,
Yeah, I think that's a big difference. We need to talk more about that when we recruit people, but compared to working at a dealership, Mercedes, Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, or like a Valvoline or a Jiffy Lube, um, or anywhere else you might work, a warehouse. Uh, you get like you do this pre-ship, right? You talked about this earlier. Hey, here's the work tonight. Here's check your phone because we have a tech app and it's on their phone. It's like here are the whatever 2 services you need to do, the 10 services you're reviewing, how long it should take. Make sure you have all the parts, and then there's like this back and forth. Hey, I'm good. You're good. And you give them a salute, right? And they get in the car and drive away,
yep.
right? In some cases, they're driving 30, 40 miles right on their own at 8 o'clock at night. Literally into the dark of the Pacific Northwest, and so one, you gotta be okay with that, like, if you want a lot of people around you, that's not our environment. It's not we'd love to have in some cases it is, uh, but in other cases it's not, and certainly on your team, it's not. The other thing is there's a lot of responsibility, right? Like, you have to be okay with, "Look, they gave me 10 trucks I gotta do oil changes on tonight," right? Or whatever it might be, or inspections, or tires, or whatever we're doing. Um, and then there's the self-confidence to know that, "Hey, I got this, like, I'm trained to do these things, and then if I find something else," I don't know, you show up, sometimes you show up, right, the tires are flat. Well, what am I supposed to do? Like, are we supposed to fix the how do I do that, right? Or the battery's dead, how do I do that, right? And so you end up with these sort of, like, challenges to getting your job done, and you gotta have the confidence, like, "Well, what am I authorized to do? What am I trained to do?" And then there's, like, who do I need to call if I don't know how to do that? And that level of independence, it's the reality of our business, and some guys, it freaks out. They don't
I
like
think
it at
so.
all,
I think
right? They
so.
don't like it at all, right? And then other people, like, they thrive on it, right? Like, I'm like, I love that. Like, I love the
Hmm.
independent sort of thing. Um, we need to do a better job of, like, testing for that on the way in, because that's something that I tell you, from my perspective, employees leave for 2 primary 80% of our employees who we hire and then leave in short order, I'd say less than 30 days, they leave for 2 reasons. One is the weather, right? Like, we tell them they're working outside, and they don't really understand what that means, right? And it tends to be when a city, the weather gets extreme for that city, right? Maybe it's, like, normally, like, hot's 80 and it becomes 100 and they freak out in the heat, or, it doesn't snow, but then normally and then it snows and, like, we're like, "Look, dude, the customer needs their vehicles operational." You know, we take our job, we sort of like we lubricate America's commerce. We sort of joke about that internally, but we have a lot of vehicles, either rental car companies, delivery trucks, construction trucks. There's all kinds of vehicles that have important jobs, and if we don't fix them, they can't do their important job, whatever that might be. Um, and so, we don't really accept weather as like a reason to not do most of the work. Every now and then there's like extreme cases with a hurricane or a blizzard, but you're sort of like, it's 30 degrees and we got an inch of snow is really not an excuse around our warehouses to not go to work. So it's weather, and then the other one is systems, right? So we have some pretty well-defined systems on, or processes. Like, how we change oil is different than how they change oil at the dealership or how they change oil at the Jiffy Lube, right? Or a quick lube. And there's a reason for that. We're mobile. We have different set of technology. The technology is safer in the mobile environment, and it's faster in the mobile environment. It allows us some better control of that sort of thing. And guys show up and they want to one off and riff it on their own program. And I'm like, look, you know, I don't need your advice on how to change oil. We have a system. You need to do it this way. And a lot of times they don't like that. And it's like, well, I've been doing it this way forever. I'm like, we told you in the interview, we have a process. You need to follow the process, right? Whether it's car washing detail, whether it's oil change, tires, and those guys, they get sideways on that. The people who thrive, they like sort of the structure, and they sort of enjoy the independence of, hey, I got 10 cars on my own, at this location, you know, 30 miles from my warehouse, and my boss sent me out with, I'm going to go do $1,500 of work tonight. Um, and they're entrusting me to do that and to do good work. And the cool thing is, should you come on board here as an employee, like every employee, they barcode scan the VIN in, and they're attached to that service, right? So you touch the car, you own it, right? You scan it in. That's like your record of work in our business. And if it's shoddy work, like we start taking check marks about, the shoddy work you delivered, and you don't get a lot of check marks of shoddy work before
No, you don't.
we ask you to go make your career somewhere else. Uh, and so in any case, interesting. Um,
I want to say one thing with the so you were talking about how some guys might have a hard time with that bit of independence. I actually had one employee who's still with me who for about 6 months it was a really hard struggle for him, and he was really open with me about it. And I think it's really important for someone new. If you
yeah,
struggle with it, you got to let someone know.
right.
And we came up with the ways he needed to basically be. He wanted to be told every job, hey, go do this vehicle, get it done. Let me know what you want to do after that, or let me know when you're done, and I'll give you the next one. And that's kind of what
Right.
he was assigned to John. Actually, he was assigned to Andre when Andre still worked with me. And Andre basically would say, this is your next vehicle. Let's get it done. Go take care of it. Lost you there for a sec.
Up your back.
There we
I
go.
got you.
Anyways, but he just needed help with, and then he
Yeah.
is now to the point where he can do it all on his own. He knows what he needs to do, and he's okay with taking care of it. Obviously, we still have that team aspect on my side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
he gets it now.
I think it's, the best field leaders in the company. Uh, and this is something where the employees, I don't think they actually believe us when we tell them this. We're like, look, we hired you. You're on the team. We're going to make you successful. You have to show up on time in uniform and care, but we can teach you everything you need. If you have some shortcomings on, hey, I don't know how to do brakes on this vehicle, or I don't know how to replace a backup camera. I've never done a side mirror, or whatever the thing is that you haven't done. We can get you there. You just need to, like, you know, be honest, be conscientious. Care is like, we got to do good work. If I don't know what I'm doing, raise my hand. I don't know how to do this. We train you. Um, but I don't think they really appreciate how much effort we'll put into folks to get them to be really good at their job. Some do, and some don't. And so we probably could do a better job of talking about that. Like, hey, look, you're on the team. It's like let's uh let's get there together. You do a good job of that, obviously. But I think maybe as a company we could do a better job of that. Interesting.
And we have like a lot of opportunity for growth here too. Obviously, I mean, like one of my guys who started with me, he worked with me for a year, Andre. He didn't have a lick of automotive knowledge. In that year, he gathered all the information he could need, and now he's working as one of our service advisors for the West Coast.
Right.
And he's pretty crucial role, and I'm sure you're really aware of
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of growth can be done here, and I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big message we're trying to convey to people, that if you're looking for a place to make a career, there's a lot of opportunities either in the field or in the headquarters, or we do have some, I'd say work remote jobs, and Andre's in one of those, right?
Mhm.
He basically has a laptop and a spare, an extra monitor at his home, and he's working in his home office or his kitchen, wherever it is, doing work for us, and he's doing a great job of it. But that's one of the things we're really trying to highlight. You're pretty new, so, and you came in as a manager. So you haven't seen that, but a lot of the other folks we're talking to, they showed up at Spiffy's doorstep, washing cars and changing oil at 10, 12, $15 an hour 5 years ago, and now they're managers, site service managers, they're working in the headquarters, all those sorts of things. And so,
Mhm.
you know, for sure, Scott and I default to, you know, we hire good people for mindset, not skill set, and we promote them for performance, not, you know, sheepskin. Like, we have guys that are directors who have high school degrees, right? Let's say, hey, they showed up and they've been cranking out the work for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and they can do the job. Let's give that person a chance. We don't need to go hire someone with a pedigree from somewhere else. We'd rather vote with the folks who show up every day and do a great job. And so, I think if you're listening and you're looking for a great place to make a career, and you love the automotive industry and you love cars and you're looking for some good training and a team, Spiffy is a great place. We have high standards. Things are intense around here for sure. The president may show up and teach how to wash a car at midnight. Um,
Yes, he
and
might.
that,
He
and
just
that,
might.
and that's good and it's bad. Like if you're not, you know, it was interesting. I was interviewing, it was actually for Portland before you showed up. I was interviewing a general manager candidate, and the guy had spoken to me and then three other vice presidents. And then he like dropped out of the interview process. I called him back. I'm like, dude, like, we'd love to hire you. He's like, so what did we do wrong? Is it money or scale? Like, what's the problem? He's like, you guys are just too intense. Like, I don't want that level of intensity. I'm going to show up and not make you happy. And I'm like, okay. I said, I'll take that. One, that's true. And two, I'd rather have that happen now than, you tell me that 6 months from now. And he's like, look, I'm good enough. I can go get a job. I'm not really looking for like, I don't want to change the world. And all you guys seem to want to change the world. And, and I'm just like not going to fit in that locker room. And so it was interesting to see that. I think it's an important thing. Again, I think for people who are really looking for career opportunities, when you can show up and wash cars for us, be here for a year, that's fine. Change oil, that's fine. But I'm really trying to find more of the people who are looking to change the world and are looking for a career path and, you know,
Me
and
too.
show up on time in uniform and care, right? And those are the ways we go build our team.
And
Um,
and that's a pretty hard thing to find sometimes, I think. The few guys that have came and gone here in Portland is that they didn't have that. They didn't wanna do that. The guys I have, they do.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, it's tough. So, anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
Um, I don't think so. You got
Okay.
anything else?
No, any questions for me?
Yeah, like I had one, but I can't remember where I wrote it down at. I had too many notes I made. Um, what about you? What about you, Carl? Where'd you grow up? I'll start that.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in upstate New York. Uh, I was like 100 miles north of New York City, in a little farming community called Highland, New York. Uh, my mom and dad and my aunt and uncle had a family business. We had a chain of uh, farm markets. It was sort of like a predecessor to Whole Foods. So we sold fresh fruits and vegetables, right? The family had apple farms, so we sold apples in the fall out of like big bins. In the winter, we sold Christmas trees. In the spring, we had like a little nursery, and then in the summer we would do like truckload sales. We'd go to Maryland and pick up watermelons, or we drive to Florida and get oranges, and so we had this, and then we sold uh, boar's head meats and then fine cheeses. Like you know, I knew the difference between like Brie and Jarlsberg at like 7 because I was cutting cheese for my dad. I still have a scar on one of my fingers. We had this knife, and I got my finger underneath the knife, and I almost cut it off. Um, it was funny. You'll appreciate this. So I almost cut this thing off, and I've got this wheel of cheese, and the wheel of cheese had to be like $50, right? And this is like 1980, right? And my fingers, like there's like a flap of it hanging off, right? Like the tip of it. I think it's this finger. And so the flip, and it's like it's leaking at a high rate, right? All over the cheese. My dad's like, "What are you doing to the cheese?" I'm like, "My finger." And he's like, "Okay." It's like, "Look, we gotta go to the hospital." Like,
Yeah,
hospital is like, "You're gonna need 6 stitches." Like, that thing's leaking too fast. And so there was this whole sort of funny thing going on. But I grew up in a, entrepreneurial family. My dad used to joke that I always wanted to stand on an apple crate behind the cash register and collect money from the pretty women. He's like, I got work for him to do, and he just wants to go collect money. Which sort of led to my first, non-governmental job out of college, which was I was a sales guy for about 10 years I, uh, before
makes
Scott and I,
sense.
and then Scott and I bought car washes, and then out of the car washes evolved Spiffy,
Hmm.
and here we are.
And then here we are.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so grew up in upstate New York, picking apples and
You don't have a strong
selling Christmas
accent, but
trees.
that makes sense because you're not from the city and stuff.
Yeah, and I left, it comes out every now and then, like, under stress. You can hear it in
I believe it.
ball and water and coffee. Um, every now and then you can hear it. But I left my hometown at 18 and I went to DC to college and then I spent some time in the army and that sort of like I think flushes out the accent a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if I'd spent 50 years there, I'd have a little stronger New York accent, but it's what it is. Good
I
question.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of share a little bit of that. My grandfather owned a shop, a Volkswagen repair shop for
Oh,
45
nice,
years. So that's kind of what led me into the automotive world too, is that
nice.
I grew up with it my whole
Yeah,
life. So
yeah, interesting. It's
yeah.
funny how the parental experiences they either energize you in or out of. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, interesting. All right, man. Well, hey,
So, yeah.
look, Tanner, it's been awesome.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Again, Tanner Govin, Site Services Manager in Portland. My name is Karl Murphy, President and Co-Founder at Spiffy. And if you're listening to this, we'd love for you to apply. We have lots of positions available in our company, and it's a great place to make a career, whether you're selling product, fixing product, delivering services, or on the phone helping customers be successful. Tanner, have a great day, man. I'll see you in the
You,
field.
you too, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.